for the potentially dangerous order on Chester, neuter male pit bull mix, brindle and white. He is at home being compliant at the moment at this point. On October 30th, 2015, I received a report from Miss Angela Brookman regarding an animal attack on October 29th, 2015. Chester, an altered male brindle and white pit bull mix belonging to Leo and Betsy Pacher, was involved in an animal attack to Zoe, an altered female yellow Labrador retriever mix belonging to Angela Brookman. On October 29th, Amber Williamson, the dog walker for the Brookmans, was walking Zoe and Jessie down Sugar Maple Drive in Davidsonville. At the same time, Betsy Pacher was in the front yard raking leaves, and her dogs Chester and Macy were in the backyard, in the fenced-in backyard area. According to Ms. Williamson, as she came down Sugar Maple Drive, the dog Chester jumped the fence and charged at her and the two dogs she was walking in the street. She stated that Chester bit Zoe and jumped on her before the owner was able to separate them and carry him back into the house. According to Ms. Pacher's statement, she heard Chester bark, saw him jump the fence and run towards the street. She yelled Chester no and chased after him. Mrs. Pacher advised that Chester ran over or rolled over one of the dogs and then sat down in the grass of her neighbor's yard on the opposite side of the street. She then picked him up and carried him back into the house. Mrs. Pacher came back out and both women looked over the two labs, did not see any obvious injuries at that time. Mrs. Brookman was advised of the incident later that evening when she returned home from work. She then looked over both of her dogs, found some blood and 2 puncture wounds on Zoe near the left flank area. She cleaned the wound and put Neosporin on it. Later that night, Zoe was not moving much and acting very painful. She was unable to sleep, so Mrs. Brookman took her to the emergency vet in Bowie around 2:30 a.m. Once at the vet, they kept her overnight and did surgery to place a drain and repair the wounds. Zoe was released the following afternoon. Due to the severity of the incident, on November 2nd, 2015, I went out to the patient's residence and advised them that Chester would need to be brought into the shelter for the investigation. On November 3rd, 2015, Mr. and Mrs. Pacher brought Chester into animal control voluntarily. I received a statement from Ms. Brookman along with pictures of Zoe's injuries, as well as the medical records from the emergency veterinarian. I received a statement from the dog walker, Mrs. Williamson, and from Mrs. Pacher. I also received multiple statements from friends and neighbors of the Pachers attesting to the good nature of Chester. Upon completion of the investigation at Animal Control, it was determined that a potentially dangerous order would be placed on Chester to effectively protect public safety.
Okay. Would you like to make a statement?
I've made my statement in there.
Okay.
Zoe's doing well. She's, all of her wounds are healed and her hair's growing back, so she's all back to normal.
Good.
And I would like to say that the Pachers did pay for the vet bills.
Okay, good, thank you. Anyone have any question of Officer Fong or Mrs. Brook? Okay, what would you all like to add?
Well, I don't know if I should give, I guess the statement that I gave will stand and maybe I might refer to it later.
Sure.
But I just had sort of a statement prepared to talk about why we're here today and what we're seeking to change.
Okay, that'd be great.
We're here today to request changes in the order that was issued on November 4th. Most specifically, the conclusion of the label of a potentially dangerous animal of Chester. And secondly, we are asking for a change in the conditions imposed by the order. The facts are fairly straightforward. There's one minor thing that I sort of disagree with, and I'll bring that up in just a moment. It's not that we don't accept responsibility for what Chester did in jumping the fence and approaching Zoe. We do, and we have. And it isn't that we aren't willing to do what is appropriate in response to make sure that, this never happens again. We disagree, or I disagree, with the way this incident has been characterized to a certain extent. I believe that Zoe did receive an injury, but it's my position that the injury was not a severe injury, which is a good thing, luckily. The letter from Animal Control says that Chester was involved in a severe animal attack in violation of 12.4.402 and 12.4.905. 12.4.402 is a public safety part, and 124905 is a running at large. And as a result, Chester acted as a potentially dangerous dog. I went back and looked at 124402 and saw that an animal may not pose threat to public safety, and the ways to do that, there are 4 ways involving people, which we can strike out because nobody was injured in this case. And Amber never said, that she was worried about him. I'm disappointed she's not here, actually, because she and I had a very nice conversation about it. And in fact, she actually approached us later to talk to us about it again. But anyway, the thing that comes up is, since this is a dog on a dog thing, one way was engages in dog fighting. This is not a dog fighting case. We weren't having a dog fight. Also, the second way is kills or inflicts serious injury to a domestic animal. And it's my contention to you that the evidence doesn't support that there was a serious injury in this case.
I think that is actually defined in,
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I have that definition.
okay.
First of all, I would just want to say from a, just a general common sense perspective, luckily this was a very brief encounter. As Officer Palm said, I was standing out raking leaves next to my driveway, which is on the left side of our property. And the Brookmans live 4 doors up. And the dog was approaching. There are 2 dogs, excuse me, Zoe and, I'm sorry, the other one, Jessie. We're approaching with the dog walker, which they do every day, usually around 1:30. This happened to be 11:30ish, 12 o'clock, so it was a little earlier than normal. And they were approaching, and when Chester saw them near me, he unfortunately came over the fence. And when he approached them, it looked to me like I immediately went after chasing, because he's fast. We have a long driveway, and I had a head start, but he still beat me down there. And I was yelling, "No, Chester," because I wanted him to stop, obviously. He ran into the dogs, basically, is the only way I can describe it. And I think Amber said that they rolled. And then he sat down. It was a very brief encounter. This happened so fast, 5-10 seconds is my estimation. And I didn't see a bite. And I know that when Amber first wrote in her note to the Brookmans, she didn't mention that she saw a bite either. We didn't see a bite. I think you can say from common sense that there was a bite because they found an injury, but neither one of us saw it. So it wasn't like a latching on kind of thing. I think it was incidental to the contact. He ran into the dog. I don't know what he was doing. I think he was sort of protecting, stay away from our property kind of deal. But anyway, it was very brief. He didn't lock on. He didn't go for the face or the throat. There were no multiple bites. I didn't have to work to separate them, nor Amber, nor I didn't. She held on to the leashes and was pulling back, I assume. But my dog was just sitting across the street. So once he made the contact, he just sat down. We didn't have to pull them apart like I've seen in dog fights before, where you have to kind of pull the animals. And our dog is a plot, we think a plot hound. He's from Barks. We think he's a plot pit mix. The walker, once I put him inside, I came back, and Amber and I, the dog walker, looked for injury. We looked all over the dogs. We didn't see anything. So I think that suggests that it was not a serious injury at that time. She and I had conversation. The dog even pooped in the yard, and they went on. They walked for half an hour. I know that because I stayed and raked my leaves, and she waved on the way back. So the wound was probably there, but it wasn't apparent to either she or I. She left a note for the Brookmans and left the dogs for the remainder of the afternoon. I don't think she would have done that if she had noticed, obviously, a serious injury. Ms. Brookman, upon seeing the note, I guess, looked over and found it upon parting the dog's hair. I mean, it was kind of concealed. And she cleaned it. My husband went over to talk to Mrs. Brookman because Mr. Brookman came over to inform us that there had been a bite. So my husband went back over and talked to Mrs. Brookman, and Zoe was in the yard and started to come towards Leo, and she was wagging her tail. So Leo visited to make sure that Zoe was okay. And I looked at the vet reports, and Mrs. Brookman reported to the vet that he was walking around fine at 7 p.m., and he ate his dinner well at 7:30. So this is 8 hours later. She did take him to the vet that evening at 2:30. I don't know why, but they didn't suture until noon the next day. So they waited 24 hours, by my calculations, before they did the suture. I'm not sure why, but they waited 24 hours. And finally, I think it's very relevant if you look at the vet report that the assessment says that they are small puncture wounds that were minor in depth. So they were small and minor. And I think that's just the opposite of serious injury, which the code requires. So it's my position that, although very unfortunate that this happened, that this doesn't amount to a serious injury as required by the code. There is a definition. The definition in code is from 10.619 of the dangerous dog section, and it says any physical injury that results, serious injury is any physical injury that results in number 1, broken bones, number 2, multiple bites, or 3, disfiguring lacerations requiring sutures or reconstructive surgery. So I thought, okay, so it's a disfiguring laceration requiring sutures. So I looked for disfiguring, and I went to the annotated code for this section, and there's nothing. So I went to the case law, and I found a definition for disfiguring in Maryland case law. And you might already be familiar with it, but the definition I found in a case was, now this is an old case, but there's not a whole lot of case law on this. And this case was a workman's comp case that hinged on whether or not there had been disfigurement in this case. And they defined it as that which impairs or injures the beauty, symmetry, or appearance of a person or thing, that which renders unsightly, misshapen, or imperfect, or deforms in some manner. So that's the definition I took, and I think applied to this circumstance, there is no, luckily, disfigurement. Zoe is fine, and we're glad that she's fine. I'm assuming that if there is any sort of mark from the small puncture wound, that it is now covered by hair. She's not disfigured. She's still a lovely yellow lab. And she's a pleasant dog. She really is. Laceration is defined as by the dictionary as a ragged wound made by tearing. I couldn't find that anywhere in the case law, so I just looked in the dictionary. And requiring sutures. I did a lot of research about whether these type of wounds are typically sutured or not, and there's, both sides of the fence. Sometimes they are and sometimes they aren't. Sometimes they aren't just to prevent for infection. So since they waited 24 hours, I would also say that I'm not sure that they were required in this case. Now, the veterinarian did do them, and I can't second guess that. But I don't even think we get there, because it's disfiguring laceration requiring sutures. As I say, the thing I find so persuasive is that in the veterinarian report, it calls them small puncture wounds that are mild in depth. So the small, I even measured them on the picture. I thought it was a pretty apt picture. One was 0.05 and one was 0.1 centimeter. I mean, they're small, luckily. I wanted to tell you a little bit about who we are. This is my husband, Leo, and I'm Betsy. We've been married for 15 years. My husband's been in the military for 28, so we have moved a lot. We've lived in Missouri, upstate New York, Virginia, Germany, and back to Maryland. We have owned, over the course of 17 years, we've owned 3 dogs, all rescue dogs. Our first was named Boomer, and we rescued him from the roadside where he'd been kicked out of a truck. And he was an awesome dog. We had him for 13 years. He passed away from cancer. When we moved back from Germany, we adopted Maisie, who's our 5-year-old pit bull. She's an amazing dog, just amazing. We got her from the SPCA here in Anne Arundel County. And Chester we adopted nearly 2 years ago, 1 month shy of 2 years, from Barks up in Baltimore. And we got him as a birthday gift for our daughter. He does amazing things for my daughter. He helps her very much with her stress that she has, and we brought some awesome pictures. He's just a great dog. He's just a great dog. We have 2 children, Charlie, who's 13, and Katie, who will be 11 in a month, since he was a birthday present. Both are athletes. Both are strong kids. They swim at the Naval Academy and both play basketball. They're both very involved with their dogs, always have been. They walk the dogs with me if they're home. I run Chester every day. He's an energetic dog. He's a hound mix. So he's always into his nose, and he has a lot of energy. I run him every day. at 6 o'clock in the morning. I run him every day for half hour to 45 minutes, and on Saturdays I run an hour. So he gets lots of exercise. I walk them twice a day, every day. Rain, snow, whatever. So they get lots of exercise, my dogs do. I work very hard with them. Chester has been through a class. He got second place at our local training class. In Davidsonville, we have a little association. That was a kind of a minor class. We went, once a week for 10 weeks, and then we had a little test at the end. And he's good at heel and all that kind of stuff. He can do all that stuff. That was about a year ago. We have a large yard. Our property is, I think, a acre and a half, and the backyard is fenced in. And it was fenced in at the regulation height that the HOA allowed, which was 4 feet. At the time. The HOA has now approved a taller fence of 5 feet, and it's a stockade.
Architectural aluminum
Yeah.
is what's approved in the HOA.
So we're not here to shirk our responsibility towards the Brookmans or to any dogs or people in our community. We take this very seriously. We know safety is important. We want to be good dog owners. In response to this incident, I appreciate Ms. Brookman saying we did pay the vet bills. We contacted our HOA president just to let him know an incident had happened, and he's here with us today just in case you have any questions. We immediately went to see the dogs. We checked over them. Leo went over again a second time that evening. My husband went to Home Depot that weekend. This happened on a Thursday. We found out on Friday. He went to Home Depot the weekend and spent his entire day erecting an additional, we took like a wire thing and attached it all the way around so that there'd be additional height. And that was before Officer Palm even came to see us. So we have been cooperating with Officer Palm to the best of our ability. We brought Chester to the animal control when requested. We did everything that they requested us to do. We have been muzzling him. We built an enclosure, the 10 by 10 enclosure. My husband did. I shouldn't say we. I didn't help. It took great pains. We wanted our dog back as quickly as possible, so we were doing everything we could. We had a retirement plan for my husband, a retirement party planned for him for his retirement after 28 years in the military. We canceled it because he was dedicated 100% to building this enclosure and getting our dog back. While he was at animal control, we found a dog trainer. We asked around and found out the best one that most people recommended is Mr. Hartwell. We contacted Mr. Hartwell. My husband and my son went to a class with Mr. Hartwell before we even had Chester back. My husband, if and when we get to that, wanted to talk about some of the conditions, if you'd like us to discuss that at this time.
So I think Betsy already really addressed the major one that we're looking for. And essentially is we're asking the commission to bring it to a warning rather than a potentially dangerous dog order, and that you trust in us to do the right thing and to ensure public safety, given everything that she's discussed and what she's presented to all of you today. If you choose not to support that request, then we make the following. Please bear with me. I left my glasses on my desk trying to get here on time. But one of the statements was Chester must be confined in a key locked room inside the residence whenever non-family members are at the home. We ask that you alleviate us of this responsibility, of this constraint. Because of our children, and we do entertain, we have had major parties in our house with multiple kids, 12 to 15, birthday parties, sleepovers, all kinds of things, and not once have we ever had an incident with Chester. I have hosted 2 homeowners association meetings where Chester actually was laying at Bob's feet, and Bob was, they were just horrified.
Mr. Brookman, this is Mrs. Brookman.
They were fine, and I think we had 11 folks at the last meeting, which they were at, and so we absolutely have no issue with Chester when he's in and around other people. The next one is that we're looking for some relief from the 6-foot stockade fence, and I understand the logic for the stockade fence with no space between the planks that you would put in there. That fence currently isn't allowed by the homeowners association Rather that we ask that you allow us to put in one that is. And that one is the 5-foot high one that is architectural built aluminum. We've already had it priced out on what it would cost for us to do that. The issue with that, of course, is that somebody could put their hands through that fence. But again, we don't see Chester as a threat to human beings in any way, shape, or form. The reason Chester can get over the 4-foot fence is it is a 4-foot picket fence and it has 2x4s on 2 levels. In this particular case, he put his paws on the top 2x4 and he barely gets over that. He scrapes his belly on the pickets going over. The aluminum fence would reduce that risk and he wouldn't be able to jump over the aluminum fence. The other one is Chester will not be taken out of the house or fence or kennel unless restrained on a 6-foot leash and muzzled under the control of a responsible person 18 years or older. We're asking that you relieve us of the muzzle on walks and runs. Betsy does run a lot. I'm not as in shape as I used to be, but Chester probably runs 6-7 miles a day. And if you look at the directions on the muzzles, it says essentially no more than 20 minutes. Now, we pushed that to be in compliance with the order. But again, we've never had an issue with Chester being on leash in any way, shape, or form. And since his training with IRA, I've seen dramatic improvements, right? And I was ready to recommend it to a couple of others and how he relates to other dogs. And even with large trucks that make large noise, right? And we understand why that happens.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Ms. Brockman, how would you feel if the commission was to downgrade the PDO to a warning letter? Would you still be concerned about the dog walking in the neighborhood?
Well, yes, I am concerned. You know, our dogs are walked by there every single day. I haven't walked them by there because, you know, I don't know what I would have done if I saw this, you know, pit bull running after me and my 2 dogs. So I haven't walked them. I played them in the backyard. So yeah, I would be concerned. I would. In fact, this morning, you know, I drive by when Miss Pacher is running, and it's all she can do to hold him back from coming at my truck. And you know, just seeing that, to me that's scary. I haven't had any other. I haven't met Chester in person. I've only seen that, and then this incident. So,
Would you be willing to attend one of Chester's training sessions with Mr. Hartwell?
oh sure, I think I learned something.
It's long, but it's good. It can only be helpful.
I have something else, and she does have something else that she wanted to add about your vet.
And just the questioning of the vet, I took Zoe to the emergency room because, you know, at 2:30 in the morning, she's not acting like herself because she's obviously in pain. She goes into another room, and that's not her. She likes to be around us. So that's when I got concerned in the fact that she hadn't slept all night. So the questioning of the vet is, we went to our regular vet, which is four legs on 424. And my husband asked, and we asked him about, you know, would you have done the same thing with her? And they said yes, because they said you don't know with a dog bite, you know, how deep it is. You need to make sure it isn't puncturing the abdominal wall. So there are things that need to be done. I'm not sure, you know, why they waited so long, but I know I had to leave her there, and that was very painful for me because, you know, you have to sign these papers that if they get the anesthesia and they don't respond, or they, you know, yeah, okay, thank you. You know, you have to sign those kind of papers, so it was just, you know, it was very upsetting.
I just wanted to go back to the veterinarian report. Nowhere in this report does it say minor depth. It says 2 small puncture wounds, and then the pockets are described as 4 centimeters dorsally and 7 centimeters caudoventrally, which are a little bit more than minor in my opinion. I'm not a vet, but they were to the depth that they required a Penrose drain be placed for proper drainage and then sutured closed. So I do take issue with that. and, you know, not, you know, the pictures of the dog with the children and in the home, the dog may be very friendly there, but I am not sure once off the property that that is a good characterization of his personality.
May I address what was just brought up?
Yeah.
Chester, when we're running, if there is a truck that goes by, he reacts to the truck. I had a dog that used to react to UPS trucks too. I don't know, something about it, especially when they go right by us. If they come up from behind us, no problem. But if they come towards us, he gets jumpy. I have him, always have him. I've never lost him, never. And we're working on that with Mr. Hartwell. I mean, that's why we're going, and we're working on that.
Do you have the same issue with motorcycles?
No, no. You know what? With our other dog, we did, but there are no motorcycles in our neighborhood. I've never had a motorcycle go by, and Miss Brookman and I have never walked by one another. I never seen them walking the dog. They might in the evening. I don't know, but a lot of these letters address all the people who walk by our house. There are lots of dogs in the neighborhood. Lots of people walk by at all hours of the night, all hours of the day, and this has never happened. So he's never done this before. And the mild pockets, I took this to my veterinarian as well so that he could address it and educate me. And he said the mild pockets refers to the depth. It says 2 small puncture wounds in the left lateral abdomen, mild pockets. The 4 centimeters dorsally and the 7 centimeters caudoventral were noted. That talks about the location, not the depth. So I think Officer Palm was incorrect in telling me originally that they were 4 and 7 centimeters deep. They were not. So that talks about the location of them, not the depth. And so I was originally misinformed about that, and that's why I went to the veterinarian and asked. And they also did the test to see if the abdomen was punctured, and it was not. So the abdomen's fine, which is wonderful. I'm glad. But that also speaks to the depth, that they were not deep.
Any other questions?
I probably talked too long, sorry. Thank you.
Told you guys he was bottled.
All right, Ms. Pacher, the Animal Control Commission has come to a unanimous decision, and we have decided to downgrade the potentially dangerous order to a warning letter. And in that warning letter, in addition to the recommendations already in the warning letter, we're going to add to it that Charlie, not Katie, is allowed to walk the dog at this point, and that as to the participation of Ms. Brookman, as she deems fit, to try and help out in the training with Hartwell with her dog so that both dogs can get along in the community. That's our recommendation. It has no impact on you at all, Ms. Brookman. It's whatever you want to do. Okay, there's no pressure on your end whatsoever. Okay. So with that, that's what we've decided. If you're unhappy with our decision, County Board of Appeals, and you'll be getting a letter from Animal Control in the next couple of days outlining everything.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Do
Thank you.
not stop following the order until you receive a
Right.
letter from Animal Control stating that
Right.
because the chief, this is just a recommendation to
Right,
the chief.
15 days, right?
Well,
I'll
it'll be
get it
quicker
to you
than
by
that.
Oh, okay.
It'll be sooner than that, but we have up to 15 days, but it will be sooner.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your time.